If you ever downloaded an app to learn a language because somebody else said it was the best, but then you were disappointed because it didn't actually work for you, would you believe me if I told you that that happens more often than not? So then you get confused because so many different voices recommend so many different language apps, and then there's so many different options, you don't know which way to turn, and your language learning is just stuck, and it's really frustrating. I personally have gotten so unbelievably stuck with this problem in the past that I created a completely unique, completely free app search. I got so tired of trying to do my own research for language apps, only to see that literally all of the app reviews were just trying to get me to pay money and not actually teach me the differences between different apps. So instead of trying to get you to buy the language app that'll pay me the most money, I've created this language app search to easily help you find the app that matches your target language, your level, your goals, all sorts of things. So let's talk about how you can skip months and years of struggle and just find the right language app the first time. First of all, let's backtrack a little bit. If you're stuck in this cycle where you've tried different language apps and none of them seem to work for you, there are some very real, very valid reasons why, and it's important to acknowledge those reasons because it's not your fault. The way that everything is currently set up is designed for you to fail, to waste your time and waste your money on all of these different apps. For example, your favorite online polyglot probably recommends the same 1-2 different language apps. You know, the ones that have like 100,000 subscribers and they get tons and tons of views. There's a reason why they recommend specific apps, and it's not necessarily because those are the apps they like. A lot of time, they recommend those apps because they make a lot of money either by being sponsored by those language apps or they get affiliate commission, which basically means that if you buy the language app through their specific link and you spend $50, then they might make $10. So you take those numbers and you multiply it against, I don't know, 1,000 different clicks. That's a lot of money. And yes, it's bound to help somebody, so it's not wrong, it's not exactly hurtful, except for the problem that we have today. And even if somebody is recommending an app that they truly believe works because they love that app specifically and has really helped them to learn languages in a way that makes them happy, unfortunately, just like language learning, language apps are not one size fits all. People love to talk about the green flags, but never the red flags. For example, with Duolingo, everybody loves to talk about how it's free and it's fun and you can maintain a daily streak and it's really easy and it makes language learning accessible to everybody. But what they don't like to tell you is that the streak is a lie. It'll keep you addicted to opening and closing the language app, but get you frustrated and anxious about your language learning as a whole, and it won't actually teach you to speak the language. And the same can be said about literally any way to learn a language you could possibly think of. There are pros and cons to everything, right? Nothing's perfect, but the fact of the matter is people don't talk about the flaws in different language apps. They don't provide this information to educate you. They provide it, they do provide it to educate you, but they don't realize that people don't need to just surf through different language apps and hope for the best. That's not actually beneficial to most language learners. And I say this as somebody who has personally experienced this and spent like 10, 15 years going through all these different language apps trying desperately to find the one that would work for me, and they never did. You want to know why? Because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to learn. And because I didn't know what I wanted to learn, I couldn't figure out how to get there. And that's what I help my clients with in the method, but that's for another video. So let's talk about this language app search. The world of learning a language online is very complicated. It is not very simple. It is definitely not easy. So I made sure that my language app search is simple, easy, straightforward. multilingualmastery.com/search. Link below in the description of all of my videos. There's like links all over my website. You can't miss it. Now there are two options here. The first one is you can fill this out and it will just ask you the 3 very direct, very simple questions in case all of this is overwhelming to you. I get it, understood. You can just fill this out and it'll direct you exactly to the options that you need. You're just getting started and you want to explore language apps that will get you closer to your goals and won't just be a distraction. This is where you start. Let's say we want to learn Spanish and we are a beginner and we want to speak Spanish as a beginner. So these are a bunch of different language apps that exist. Now, if that is overwhelming to you, totally understand. What you can do is you can expand upon these. This gets real deep and nitty gritty, because this is how I teach my clients to understand their language learning journeys and which resources to pick and all that stuff. But if that's too much, close that up. We can start from literally the beginning. There are probably apps that you are familiar with. There are probably brand new apps that you've never heard of that are much smaller and do not have Duolingo's marketing budget. This is a really excellent tool if you want to get past all the sponsorships and all the affiliates and all the biases. This is just a list of apps that are available in Spanish for beginners who want to learn to speak Spanish. Now, let's, for example, say that, SpeechLing looks interesting. All of these little squares are blog posts. And you scroll down, and here you have a blog post review. So in this blog post review, I talk about everything that you need to know about using this app to learn Spanish, or any language. It includes a list of all the languages available in the app. And you scroll down, you see that SpeechLing is for introverts, and I can compare it to resources like italki and Verbling and Baselang, which coincidentally are also apps mentioned here. Baselang, Verbling, italki. So you can see how these language apps are similar to each other, and I compare them in these language app reviews. Talk about how it's for introverts, so if you're not an introvert, you would rather get talking to somebody, get talking to a native speaker, get talking to a tutor, then you can obviously see that SpeechLing is not for you. And that's totally fine. You can close out of this app review and move on and continue on to, maybe Verbling, Baselang, or italki. These are 3 other options that might be more beneficial to you. But if you are an introverted, you can scroll down. These are videos, these are screen recordings of me using these apps. So there's no secrets. You see exactly how it works. You can get a look through it, get familiar with it, and you can blow these up. I go through every little aspect of these apps, okay? I go through them and I report on what they're good at, what they're not good at, what kind of language learner they're good for, what your goals are, all sorts of stuff. As I go really, really in depth because I, like many of you, have spent way too much time researching apps, not enough time actually learning languages. So I do all that for you, so you can scroll down once we get to the bottom. SpeechLing review, is it for you? And it says who it's best for. However, it's not the prettiest. If that's important to you, another Busu is an option. There's a link to try SpeechLing, which, fair warning, I try and put affiliate links. This is a free app search, and like you can see, I don't try and convince you to invest in a language app if I don't genuinely believe that it's beneficial to you, but this is a free app search. I am only one person. It does keep money to keep this up and updated, so if you do decide to use any of these apps, and there are links, I would appreciate if you use them. Just throw me a couple bucks here and there. No big deal. And you can see that these are not biased reviews. These are very cut and dry, very clear. If this describes you, you might want to try it. If this doesn't describe you, here's a couple other options that are very similar. And that is how you narrow down your search for a language app from every app in the world to very few. Another thing that's great about this app search is that you will find apps that you've never heard of before from very small teams. So like, for example, Polygloss. I love Polygloss personally, and I wish more people knew about it, and that's one of the reasons why it is featured on my language app search. You can scroll down, again, another screen recording, how to use it, what to expect, everything, motivational features, price, everything. Like, if you have a question about a language app, this is where you go, point blank. Because I want to make it clear that the way that I approach language learning as a coach, as a language learner, is that language learning is a personalized thing. Language learning is very personal, individual to each human, and when we ignore that, that's when we give people advice that is not good for them, is not helpful for them. There are many very well-credentialed teachers and tutors and course creators who have the best intentions at heart, but do not understand that people function differently, people learn differently, and for many people, language learning is a very personal, vulnerable thing. And if we don't acknowledge that, then we don't make it easier for people to learn languages. So, one of my goals that I have with this language app search is to make it easier for you to create your own personalized journey. Now, if you're anything like me, you may be thinking, okay, Jamie, but sometimes a lot of language apps say that they're for intermediate learners, but they're really, really beginner and it's really annoying. Or they do the opposite where they say they're for beginners, but they expect you to have like a lot of vocab, a lot of grammar, and they don't tell you that. And to that I say, yes, I understand that, I know that, and I acknowledge that in these app reviews and in my language app search. The difference between beginner, intermediate, advanced is not just the vocabulary, it's not just different grammar structures, it's not just building up like math problems. It's not just that, it also requires different skills. For example, if you are a total beginner, you're not focused on conversational fluency just yet because you have nothing to say. You don't have the building blocks, you don't have the tools that you need to say things. So how are you going to say things if you don't have the words and you don't know how to put them together? It's a waste of the beginner's time. That's just one of many examples of how the beginner in a language is very, very different from intermediate or advanced. And understanding those differences as a language learner are very, very, very important. So that said, when you go into my language app search and you see beginner, intermediate, advanced, these are general categories. Everybody's different. You know, your beginner is different from somebody else's beginner. I try my best to generally place them as I believe they're suited, as I believe they fit, not based on what the language apps say, because they're a lot of the time wrong. And so based on my own experience as an independent language learner who learns languages as a hobby by herself, and I see these, I'm like, this is not intermediate, this is beginner, this is easy, this is boring. I do my best to categorize them as necessary. As you get to know yourself as a language learner and get clear on your abilities or lack thereof, it'll make it easier for you to understand what your needs are. But unless you get started and you try doing things and you are put into like at least general idea of a journey for what you need in your own language learning, unless you start, there's no way to have that information. So start. Even if you don't know exactly where you are, just make an assumption, make a guess, and take action. And that's my advice. Because once you have the knowledge about your own language learning and you have the ability to search through language apps like this, then you'll actually be able to get closer to reaching your goals. You won't just be throwing spaghetti at the wall and trying all these different apps and hoping for the best. We don't want to just like blindly hope. That is not what I'm about with language learning. My ethos to language learning is to be intentional, make intentional decisions, make educated decisions, and this language app search is what you need to be able to do that and to find the language apps and courses that you need to be successful in your own language learning. That said, I've talked a lot about what you should do. I want to also take a second to acknowledge the things that a lot of us do wrong, because like I said, if we don't acknowledge it, then we are at risk of repeating it. So I want to be very clear about ways that we are taught to treat language apps and things that we should learn to do better. For example, going for a language app that is popular instead of intentional. So we've all gone through the Duolingos. Maybe you've tried Rosetta Stone, Pimsleur, just some of the more well-known names in language learning. These language apps are very, very different, and they have very, very different goals, and they are best for very, very different types of humans. So if you've tried all of these apps because they are popular, so therefore they should work, they do, but maybe not for you. And so instead of spending all of your time trying all of these apps just because you've heard of them, or there's a good deal, or somebody you respect likes it a lot, it's very much so important that you focus on your goals and your own needs. Another thing is ignoring your level and saying, oh, I can figure it out. If you have experience with languages, or you have experience with languages related to other languages, so for example, if you're a native English speaker, and you are going into learning Spanish and you have taken a couple Spanish lessons in the past, you may think, oh, I can figure it out. Some things you will be able to figure out. Some things you will not. That is just the way of language learning, and that's okay. That is why we have different information available to different levels, with different subjects, with different content. I cannot over-express how many options there are available to language learners. As somebody who has been doing this for 15 years, doing this online, trying to learn a language online for like 15 years, seeing how this industry and the options available have absolutely exploded, there is an option out there for you. There is. And I don't want you to waste any more time going through the options that are obviously not going to be beneficial to you. So no, use my language app search. And the final mistake, and this is a big one, switching between apps so much because you're afraid that the one you're trying isn't good enough, isn't working fast enough, isn't doing what you're looking for. Stop. The problem, I understand the anxiety, I understand the stress, I understand the worry. You don't have to be worried about that. You can just let it go. That's fine. The problem that happens with that is that in order to see what works for you or what doesn't work for you is you have to give it time. You have to use it enough to collect data. You have to be able to see what isn't working, what is working. Do you enjoy it? Do you not enjoy it? You have to learn all of these things. And if you don't learn all of these things before you make the switch to a different language app, then you're just starting from scratch over and over and over again. And you're never gonna get any closer to your goals. I understand it's scary to make that commitment and like you feel like you're wasting your time because it's not working or it's not working fast enough or there's a better way to do it. Maybe, maybe not, but we don't know unless you give it a really solid try and get clear on what, like, there are pros and cons to everything. Like I said in the beginning of the video, there are pros and cons to every app. And unless you understand for yourself what the pros and cons are for you, for any particular app, then it's a waste of time to switch apps. If you don't have the information that you need to make a better educated choice about your next app, then you're wasting your time. You need to focus. You need to give one app the old college try. Just give it a minute. See what happens. And if nothing happens, okay. But then you know why nothing happens, and you know what you need in order to make something happen better. And then with that information, you can go back into my language app search, plug that information in, look for the right information that you're looking for, and now you are one step closer to reaching your goals. Anyway, at the end of the day, my free language app search, which will always be free, it is a labor of love. I have spent many, many years researching all these language apps, trying them for myself, working with my clients to figure out what they need out of language apps and building this language app search. It will save you months, maybe years of struggling to find the right language app for you. So please use it. Even if you don't sign up for emails, even if you don't click any affiliate links, just use it. So go to link below in the description and click the link to my free language app search and give it a shot for yourself. Then, once you tried it, leave a comment down below and let me know what apps came up, what you think of it, if it helped you, if it really helped you understand your language learning a little bit better. Let me know how it helps you. And then, like I said, give it a serious shot. Give it a real shot. Don't just kind of like try it for 10 minutes and then it's not good enough. Just give it a minute. Practice some patience. A lot of language learning is about patience and just trusting. And that's why I teach my clients how to like basically use science and like take objective data so they can understand like objectively what's working and what's not working instead of just going by feelings, because our feelings will lie to us. In our language learning, our feelings, our fears of failure, our anxiety, our distrust, those will all screw up our perspective and make us think that we're not making any progress when we're making so much progress. We just have to trust and let the app do its job. But you don't know that until you get some data and you are making decisions based on the things you learn. Data, science, numbers, etc. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, and also make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video all about how to learn languages every Wednesday. Bye.